Hello, YouTube. So, if you are somebody who lives in Ecuador or is considering traveling to or moving to Ecuador, you are probably already aware of the rolling blackouts, of the power crisis, the energy crisis in Ecuador. And I wasn't going to make a video about this because um, it was a topic that didn't really feel that important to me, which I'll explain in a moment. But after watching a couple of channels that YouTube channels that I really respect and like, one of them GMAs, the other one Loving Living Abroad, both making videos about how the wind's kicking up. It's going to get hard to hear me. So both of these YouTube channels had just made videos that I really enjoyed, talking about their experiences, how it has impacted them, dealing with the energy crisis in Ecuador, and analyzing the causes and possible solutions, etc. And it was interesting. Like I said, I hadn't planned on making a video about this, but when I watched those videos, I realized I've had a very different experience. I haven't had out here on the farm. Out here, I have not had a single power outage yet, not one. My power has been stable; it's been reliable. But I think there's several small power companies in different parts of Ecuador, and I think I'm really lucky that I have one that has had good maintenance, has enough water for the hydroelectric supply, because most of Ecuador's power is hydroelectric, and I've got lower prices out here, I think, than most parts of Ecuador. So I want to explain my situation. I want to explain what from other people I'm hearing is happening in other parts of Ecuador. But more importantly, so I'm an electrician, and this is something I care about and I think about a lot, power supply. And I believe that I understand the solution. And it might sound a little arrogant, but I think there's a very simple, elegant solution to Ecuador's power crisis that wouldn't cost the government anything and would be easy to implement. So let's get into it. First off, like I said, no power outages out here in rural Ecuador, about an hour outside of Quito. But Quito itself has had multiple rolling blackouts, and other parts of Ecuador are having blackouts sometimes 2 times a day. The government has stated that it is a combination of lack of rain, and it's raining right now, but we did have a big drought. This is true. It's an El Nino year. El Nino years tend to mean more rain on the coast, but less rain in the mountains and in the Amazon. And most of the hydroelectric power generation is in the mountains and in the Amazon. So the climate did impact us. And the climate, this is something that can't be understated. We are going to have more and more frequent El Nino years, and we're going to have more and more years where the climate does not cooperate. We do not get the rain we need to generate enough hydroelectric power without some serious changes. That said, the government has also said there was a lack of maintenance, that millions of dollars, tens, almost $100 billion that was spent on maintenance was squandered or embezzled. And so lack of maintenance, a drought, but also sabotage. And the reason I think the government considers this sabotage was a couple of reasons. One, some people that are political opponents of the current government didn't say word one. Right up leading into the an important election, an important vote in Ecuador, they didn't say anything about the power crisis or that it was reaching a critical state. And there is an accusation that one of the hydroelectric plants released a bunch of water for no reason, creating a manufactured crisis. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know how much of the power crisis is possibly neglect, incompetence, corruption, or sabotage. But these are the factors that the government is accusing the opposition and opposition operatives of doing to sabotage them. I'm not dialed in enough to the ins and outs of the government to know how much of that is true. If all of it's true, some of it's true, none of it's true. Definitely, I would say incompetence. Definitely, I would say corruption. But as far as the sabotage, it's a bit of a stretch in my opinion, but it might be true. It might. But the biggest factor, in my opinion, has been the climate. The climate has not cooperated with Ecuador's system of power generation with hydroelectric. And the climate has not cooperated with Ecuador's lack of planning for the future. Power demand only goes in one direction. Each year, cities grow. Each year, power demand grows. And if the supply is not growing with the demand, you're going to hit a wall eventually. And that wall is probably going to pop up and ruin your day in a year where if you have hydroelectric power as your main generating source, you have a drought. So that is what's happened. That's the truth about what has happened in Ecuador. Now, like I said, I haven't had one power outage out here on the farm at all. In Quito, when I'm at the apartment in Quito, we've had a few. It's usually a few hours, not every day, but almost every day we're having power outages. Other parts of Ecuador have been much harder hit. And this is a climate where you don't really need AC. You don't use a lot of power. You don't use a heater. You don't use AC. You're just running a few LED lights and a computer and a phone charger. That's pretty much all you use electricity for in the mountains. But on the coast, people are running AC. They're running fans. Guayaquil is the biggest city in Ecuador, and so there's a lot of industry, and with industry comes power usage. So Guayaquil has probably been the hardest hit with power outages, according to GMAs, 2 times a day, twice per day, in the morning and in the evening. And it's rolling throughout different neighborhoods, and it's been incredibly disruptive to just living a normal life, but also to working and industry and the economy of Ecuador. I mentioned that I believe I know a elegant, simple, cost-free solution. Not cost-free for everyone, but cost-free for the government. The government can implement this solution without spending money on it. Simply by, and I think solar-powered equipment, or at least most solar-powered equipment, already has a tax exemption. But that doesn't mean all of the different pieces you need to build a complete solar generation system, photovoltaic system, are tax-free, import-free. And there is a problem when the government wants to incentivize people doing things like using electric power vehicles or anything, and they reduce the taxes or they eliminate the import taxes on it. It doesn't mean that the importers are honest about it and cooperate. So solar powered equipment here is very expensive. I don't think it actually has an import tax, but it's very expensive. It's priced like it still has an import tax, and some of the components I think still do. Like the batteries probably still have an import tax. I don't know about the controllers and rectifiers and things like that, but different components may have different levels of tax. But the solar panels, I think they're tax-free, import tax-free. What the government could do is eliminate the import tax on all of these items, eliminate the sales tax on all of these items. But because the importers are not going to cooperate, they're gonna be self-serving, and they're gonna here, there's a lot of collusion amongst the importers. It's a small group of well-connected people that import items from like China and places like that and resell them. So you can't trust them, and you won't solve the problem just by getting rid of the taxes. You also need a government program that buys this equipment, imports it at scale, buys a huge amount of solar panels and inverters and all of the equipment, batteries that you need to set up a grid-connected solar power system on your home, and then sells it, maybe not at cost, but the markup is just enough to cover the cost of their program, to cover the salaries of the people that administrate this program, so that basically you're paying a fraction over the price you would in China for solar panels and batteries and all the equipment you need. Why is this the solution? Why is this an elegant solution? Well, the government ultimately is not spending money. They're investing a little money, but they're recouping it. The people who pay to install these systems on their homes are the people that have enough money to do so. The middle and upper middle class and wealthy class in Ecuador, that they're inconvenienced by these power outages, and they're motivated to find a solution that fits them. And in finding that solution, in installing solar power on their homes, they reduce their demand. And if 3 or 4 or 5% of the country has the means to do this, and the price suddenly drops significantly, so it costs very similar to what it costs in China to install solar power on your house. And shit, I just had to delete a bunch of videos off my phone to make space to record more video. Where was I? So if 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% of the country does this, it is enough to take the pressure off the power grid, to provide enough of a cushion for everyone else. So if, let's say 5% of the country installs solar power, and they're generating part of their electrical requirements, they're using less, and that frees up power for everyone else. So they get more convenience. They don't have power outages. They get lower power bills. And everyone else has enough power to get through the day, to get through the week, to get through the year. So this is my simple solution. This is my elegant solution for Ecuador's power crisis. I doubt anyone in the know, anyone in government, anyone important is going to hear this. I don't think Ecuador is going to implement a program like this, but if they would, it would solve the problem. That's all I've got to say. Peace out. Oh, and horses. Who doesn't love horses?